You are listening to the Be Your Own Coach podcast. I am DeAnn LifeCoach Day. This is episode number 11, and today's topic is evaluate to elevate. And what I mean by that is that it's important for us to take a moment to evaluate ourselves to ensure that we are on the right track and making the best decisions that will lead us to like elevating or leveling up in life in the way that we want to. And so, for those of us who are doing the 100 days consistent challenge, this is actually the perfect time for us to evaluate ourselves because we are about halfway through this challenge. So, like I said, this is a good time to reflect on what we've been doing and figure out how that's been working and decide how we want to finish out this challenge in a way that will give us the results that we want. And so I'm going to provide you with 4 simple questions which will allow you to complete a self-evaluation. And this evaluation is one that can help you grow and elevate any part of your life. I think this is an important topic because evaluating ourselves helps us to maintain the results that we want. And it also helps us to improve when we don't get the results that we were hoping to get. So, this evaluation, like I said, is quick, it's easy, it's very effective. And it's also one that I learned from one of my mentor coaches, Stacy Bayman. Um, and before sharing those 4 questions with you, I'd like to share with you when it would be helpful to actually complete one of these evaluations. Now, of course, you can evaluate yourself whenever you see fit, but today I'm just going to offer 7 different instances when it could be helpful to actually say, wait a minute, let me do a quick evaluation. So the first one is after trying something new. And this is the perfect time to assess what went well, what could be improved, and evaluating after a new experience, it allows us to quickly identify like successful strategies that we want to use again in the future. And it also helps us to identify areas that we might need to adjust um, when the next go round. Also, we might want to do an evaluation after consistent practice. So after we are consistently practicing something, or maybe we have a new routine and we've been consistently practicing that routine, evaluating after a period of consistent practice will help us kind of measure our progress and the sustainability of continuing to do this system. And it also ensures that the method or the habits that we're developing while using this like system or process or whatever are actually effective and beneficial and will continue to help us in the long run. Number 3, you might want to consider doing an evaluation after achieving a specific outcome. So whether the outcome is a success or whether you see the outcome as a setback, evaluating it provides valuable insights, and understanding the factors that led to the outcome can help us replicate it if that's what we want to do, or it can help us like avoid future pitfalls if some of the things didn't work out and actually didn't like kept us from getting the result that we want. Number 4, evaluate ourselves during like a major transition or if we're having like a big life change. For instance, significant life changes can disrupt our routines and have an impact on our goals. And evaluating your current status will help you adapt and stay aligned with your objectives and the things that are important to you. So doing an evaluation after like a big life change or a major transition is also helpful. Number 5, after receiving some feedback, it might be good to reflect and take a look at ourselves. So external feedback provides us with the opportunity to see ourselves from another perspective. It's like giving us insight on how to look at ourselves from another person's point of view because they've just given us all this feedback. And evaluating the feedback that we get helps us to consider useful insights and maybe address any areas that may need to be improved. So yeah. And then number 6, after experiencing burnout or after experiencing a setback would be a good time to evaluate ourselves. And evaluating ourselves after a period of burnout or a significant setback can help us identify the root causes and prevent future occurrences. And it's a chance to kind of reset and align with healthier practices or more useful, more helpful practices so that we don't fall into the burnout again, or so that we don't have the exact same setback. And then lastly, number 7, I just think it's good to do evaluations just periodically as a routine check-in. So you can do regular evaluations, maybe weekly or monthly or quarterly. It just depends on what you have going on or how you want to use this process. But the check-ins can help you maintain continuous growth and ensure that you are on track for your long-term goals. So taking time to evaluate ourselves offers us a variety of different benefits, including the fact that we get immediate feedback every time we do it. And evaluating at these points provides timely insights, making it easier to implement changes. And we can see how we're being impacted quickly if we're doing these evaluations on a regular and consistent basis, right? We're getting that immediate, instant feedback. And then we can go out and then apply it. We're also having continuous improvement because doing these regular evaluations helps us develop the habit of continuously improving, continuously finding ways to improve, continuously evaluating what's working, what needs to be tweaked, and how we can improve the situation to get more of the results that you want. And it's helping us to stay on track and achieve our goals much more effectively. And then another benefit is that it offers us a balanced perspective. So we're reflecting on both our successes and our challenges when we're doing these evaluations. And it ensures a balanced view, preventing us from only focusing on what went wrong, since that's what our brains typically tend to do. We typically laser focus in on everything that we did wrong and why we're not good enough and why it's never gonna work and all that, the whole negativity thing. We all know it. But this evaluation process that I'm gonna offer, it promotes a more positive, more growth-oriented mindset by having you identify what went well. So with that being said, the very first question number 1 of 4, we got 4 questions. Question 1 of 4 is simply, what worked? It's important to start with positives. Our brains naturally tend to focus on negatives, so it's important that we train it to identify positives first before it gets stuck in that tunnel of negativity, right? So when we force our brains to identify the positives first, it will actually keep us from getting stuck in the negativity. And it also allows us to acknowledge all of the things that we did well, which is not something that we typically do. some of us, including myself, typically see or typically just focus on our flaws, and we never acknowledge what we did well. And so this practice helps us to acknowledge our successes and allows us to develop more of a positive mindset. So I've recently evaluated myself, and I'm doing the 100 Days Consistent Challenge, and my focus in that challenge is to calendar, right? So the one thing that I'm focusing on doing consistently throughout the 100 days is like calendaring and following my calendar as closely as possible each day. And so when I evaluate myself and I ask myself what's worked so far, one of the things that works is using color coding. I color code my priorities. I have my top 3 priorities are my mom, my health, and my business, right? So I use color. I've assigned each of them a different color so that I can see and make sure that I'm tending to my priorities as I'm creating my calendar. So for instance, my health, the color for health is green. The color that represents doing things for my mom or with my mom is orange. The color that represents me doing things for my business is blue. So if I don't see these colors after I've created my plan for the week, if I look at my calendar and I don't see these colors, I usually go back and find a way to add it to my calendar so that I can make sure that I'm giving my attention to the things that are most important to me and not just filling it like just with stuff that isn't going to have a direct impact on what's important to me or what my goal is. And another thing that works for me is using a visual tracker so that I can see my progress. So for instance, when I follow my plan for the day, I give myself a gold star on a calendar that I have hanging on my wall. And it offers me a visual, like a visual and a constant reminder of my goal, but also a visual of my progress. And it usually inspires me to want to follow through on the goal just so I can get a gold star. Okay. So that is something that I found that has worked. So that's the first question. What worked? Right. The second evaluation question is what didn't work? It's important to acknowledge our challenges, especially when we are working toward a specific goal or if we're trying to level up in certain types of ways. It's very important that we acknowledge what like setbacks or challenges or things that come up. So, because recognizing what didn't go as planned and why things didn't work out causes us to have more awareness on what the actual problem is. And once we have identified the true challenge or the problem, we're more likely to come up with effective solutions that can help us overcome those challenges. So it's important that we are able to identify things that went wrong, but it is equally as important that we don't focus on blaming ourselves or beating ourselves up for the things that didn't work out. There's no benefit in doing that. That just causes you to feel discouraged or defeated or insecure or doubt and a bunch of other emotions that's going to hinder your progress. But instead, it would be more beneficial for us to feel curious, like curious about what the problem is and how we can solve it. Or maybe feel determined, right? Determined to find a way to overcome the challenge. And then feel optimistic about finding the path that will lead us to the result that we want. So, in evaluating myself, I noticed that what didn't work for me was staying up late because I love to stay up late. I don't know, I'm a night owl. And because it staying up late just made it really difficult for me to get up early And I also noticed that when I stayed up late, I get super tired in the middle of the day, which made it difficult for me to keep up with my calendar because I'm just too tired to follow it. Another thing that I noticed that didn't work for me is like creating my calendar at the beginning of each day. Not committing and creating it for the week, but kind of feeling resistance toward the calendar and just like, oh, I'll just do it at the beginning of the day. I'll just do the create my calendar in the morning. And creating the calendar each day made it hard to ensure that I was going to get everything done or that I was going to give everything enough time, right? So like doing a daily calendar, just doing it at the beginning of every day didn't really work well for me. All right. So after taking a look at what worked and what didn't work, it was important that I considered what I learned. So your question number 3 is, what did you learn? And this could be what you learned about yourself, something you learned about the process you chose to use, something you learned about working with others, just anything in general that you have learned can be included in your answer to this question. So taking time to reflect on what you have learned can help you make strategic decisions about how you want to move forward. So for me, when I evaluated myself, in doing my evaluation, I learned that I do better at following my calendar when I give myself like free time in between doing certain tasks, like maybe 15 minutes to an hour. It just gives me time to like transition into the next task or take a quick break before jumping into the next thing. And it also helps me from feeling overwhelmed when I see my calendar full and things are like just back to back to back to back with no free moment. It causes me to feel overwhelmed. I notice that's another thing I notice. I When I look at my calendar, it's just back to back to back to back, and it just looks like it's full of things to do. Then I feel overwhelmed, and then I become less likely to actually follow the calendar. So another thing I learned is that if I don't get enough sleep, I get sleepy in the middle of the day, and then I just struggle to follow the calendar. It's like almost impossible because I'm taking a nap. So those are just a couple of things that I learned. And because I noticed those things, now I'm ready to problem solve, right? And this leads us to our final evaluation question, which is, how do you want to move forward? So how do you want to move forward in a way that will help you get more of the results that you want, or in a way that helps you get over an obstacle you may be facing, or in a way that works best for your learning style or your work style? Listing all the ways that you want to move forward is like, it's basically like creating an updated and more strategic plan for how you intend to keep going and making this progress. And once your plan is made, all there's left to do now is follow it. So for example, in regards to my evaluation, after evaluating myself, I decided that I wanted to move forward by going to bed 2 hours early, or at least being in the room with like the ambiance set to put me to sleep. You know, I might not actually fall asleep that early, but just get in the bed 2 hours before that I normally get in the bed, and maybe do some reading or some writing, and then just end up going to sleep earlier. I also decided that I want to start taking vitamins that give you energy, because I really want to get these things done on my calendar, and me just getting sleepy in the middle of the day is not helping. So I'm going to try to go to sleep earlier, and then also taking vitamins that will give me energy. I also want to continue to use my little gold star tracking system, because so that I can see my progress, because that really works for me. And then I decided that I'm going to be creating my calendars every Sunday for the week. And and then I'm going to give myself like free time when I'm creating the calendar, give myself free time in between tasks. I don't need free time in between every single task, but I just need to incorporate some free time throughout the day so everything is not just back to back to back, so that I don't start feeling overwhelmed. And so there's a lot of other things I plan to do and plan to implement moving forward to ensure that I get the results that I want in this 100 days consistent challenge. And then, of course, I will continue to repeat this process, which is what I want to encourage you guys to do. This is definitely not like a one and done type of thing, right? You want to get in the habit of doing this type of evaluation consistently and regularly so that you're able to continue to improve and grow, right? As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this process allows us to grow continuously. So there'll always be things that have worked, right? And those are things that you might want to keep doing. There'll always be things that didn't work, and those are things that you might want to like make sure you never do again, or maybe tweak them so that they actually do work. You're always going to be learning something new, and and then you can always decide how you want to move forward in a more strategic, more productive, more effective way. So that's why it's important to continue to do this. Don't just do this one time, continue it to do it over and over again so that you're continuously learning and growing, right? All right. And as always, one reminder, please know that the goal for you by doing these evaluations is not that you are becoming perfect or that you're doing things perfectly. The goal is just to get better over time. And this evaluation literally helps you do that. It's going to help you get better over time. All right. So for those of you who know me, you know that I'm always encouraging homework. So I encourage you to do a self-coaching evaluation at least one time within the next week. And just pick something to evaluate yourself on. Maybe how you showed up to complete a process, or maybe you put on an event. How did that go? How did you handle a situation that came up? Maybe there's a project you've been working on, you want to evaluate yourself on. Just pick something. This is one of my favorite tools to use, and it has helped me grow in so many different ways. This is one of those tools that you want to use consistently, as I said before, and I'd love to hear how it works for you. So let me know. Let me know in the comments. You're welcome to email me directly if you want. My email address is coachingdaydreams@gmail.com. And now it's time to say goodbye. So that is your self-coaching tool for the week. Make sure you use it. Don't just let it sit in the self-care toolkit. Don't just let it sit there. You need to actually make time to do it, maybe at least 10 to 15 minutes. It's good for you, I promise. And until next time, be your own coach and make things happen.